A life-saving medication derived from a natural compound? I never thought in my wildest dreams this would get so political that even my colleagues would refuse to dispense it. Let's get into today's talk. So we are talking about ivermectin. This product was essentially derived, it's a derivative of a post-biotic, I call it, a natural compound that was discovered in the 1970s in Japan outside of a golf course. Not sure why that fact is really relevant here, but long story short is that ivermectins, as they're called, this class of compounds, were isolated, were derived, were found from a special species of bacteria called Streptomyces avermitilis. If I'm saying that incorrectly, I apologize. This compound has been shown for many years to save thousands of lives all over the country. And so this particular product has a multitude of different functions. Let's talk a little bit more about ivermectin and its potential health benefits to the common user. Let's think about this for a minute. Ivermectin can be compared to, honestly, penicillin. In my opinion, in my experience, there's no controversy about the use of penicillin in this country. Do we know where penicillin comes from? Right? 1928, Dr. Alexander Fleming, a bacteriologist at St. Mary's Hospital in London, discovers, basically has a messy lab, to put it plainly, and there's mold growing. That mold, penicillium strain mold, produces a postbiotic that he basically finds out that it inhibits bacteria growing on the petri dish. We essentially find the same thing 1975 in the soil off of a golf course in Japan, and for some reason ivermectin is only used in cattle, in horses. Really? Let's think of ivermectin and any other naturally derived product as a multi-tool. These compounds that are found in nature, yes, ivermectin is synthetic. There are some issues with the exact compound that was extracted from the soil, these ivermectins, as they're called. There are some issues with it taking that particular compound internally. But a slightly modified version of that, think of it as a multi-tool. There are different mechanisms of action on the way that ivermectin actually works. By the way, I forgot to mention in 2015, those that discovered the postbiotic from the Streptomyces strain of bacteria won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015. Ivermectin has broad-spectrum antiviral properties against a multitude of RNA viruses. It shouldn't be a big surprise that ivermectin can essentially fight against a multitude of different RNA viruses. I would encourage you to look at natural compounds, again, as these multi-tools, these Leathermans, if I could use a brand name, Leathermans of the world, that have different mechanisms of action that can be applied to a multitude of different diseases and conditions. In my traditional training as a pharmacist, we would often study one drug for one disease based on essentially one mechanism of action. And I would like to, again, even with the low-dose naltrexone that we compound here with methylene blue, there is more than one mechanism of action for these prescriptions, for these supplements, that we have to expand our understanding and knowledge of how these things are actually working in the body in a multitude of different ways to help with a multitude of different issues. So we got to change the way we're thinking about medicine. In 2020, a lab in New York showed a modeling program, so this was just computer generated, looking at the mechanism of action of how ivermectin binds to the ACE2 receptor, which in turn inhibits a specific virus from infecting healthy human cells. So think of ivermectin as clogging up the keyhole, if you will, for opening a door. Ivermectin essentially comes in, it has a specific binding site inside of the keyhole so that the virus that tries to find entry into a healthy human cell is blocked. Something else that's important to understand when ivermectin is killing off parasites is that mechanism of action of ivermectin has to do with binding of specific electrolyte channels, causing death by hyperpolarization of ions, leading to paralysis. So ivermectin has a completely different mechanism of action when it's killing viruses versus killing parasites. So keep that in mind, different binding sites. In pharmacy school, I was trained to follow the evidence. Follow the evidence. Give me evidence-based medicine that a pharmaceutical works, that it is safe, that it is effective. Show me studies. Show me randomized controlled trials, RTCs, with enough power, with enough statistical significance that these studies prove, or I should say, the evidence supports the use of a particular medication. There are many randomized controlled trials. I have 16 of them in my files behind me, showing the benefit of ivermectin in helping to reduce RNA viruses in the human body. So I would encourage you to look at these studies. There's many of them out there, and I find them very, very beneficial. I would encourage you to take a look at is immunoglobulin concentrate. It's sold under the brand name Immunolin, which is immunoglobulin concentrate. It's a serum-derived IgG, so immunoglobulin G, sourced from bovine. This is just one particular brand. We are not sponsored by this particular manufacturer, but immunoglobulin G acts as a mop to essentially sequester endotoxin and other pathogenic byproduct that potentially could be causing harm in your body. So I encourage you to look at serum-derived immunoglobulin G, bovine extracted. Thank you for watching today's video. I encourage you to share this video with a loved one, and we will see you next time.